I want to ask you about Elon Musk, if I could. You talked about Elon Musk. We had him at dinner here in the White House. Is he now back in your circle of friends?
Well, I really don't know. I mean, I like Elon a lot. He was he really helped during the election with his endorsement. He felt strongly. Like, we had one problem. I didn't want to have everybody have to have an electric car, and he makes electric cars. And yeah, I think we get along well.
Okay, so this just happened, and I mean this literally just happened. We're talking about something so wild, so blatantly obvious, that it's almost hard to believe it's real. Trump releases a new national security strategy. The document that's supposed to lay out America's vision for keeping the country safe, protecting our allies, standing up to our enemies, and within hours Putin's government is literally celebrating it. They're publicly praising it. They're saying it aligns with Russia's worldview. And to make it even worse, Trump then walked out of a major international meeting while all of this is going on, just left, walked out, like he couldn't handle the heat.
But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Here's what happened. On December 7th, 2025, Trump released his new national security strategy. This is a big deal. This is supposed to be the blueprint for how America deals with the rest of the world for the next 4 years. It's supposed to show strength. It's supposed to show that we're protecting our interests. It's supposed to show that we're standing by our allies. And instead, what Trump actually released was something that made Russia openly celebrate. That's not a coincidence. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a problem. That's a massive problem. Within hours of the strategy being released, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov came out and said that Trump's strategy resonates with Russia's own perspective. He said it aligns with what Russia wants. He said Russia appreciates the parts about ending NATO enlargement and negotiating peace in Ukraine. Come on. Think about what that means. Putin's spokesperson is publicly endorsing Trump's national security strategy. That's not something that happens if Trump is being tough on Russia. That's what happens when a country feels like it's getting what it wants from the American president. That's what happens when an adversary sees an opportunity. That's the moment when someone realizes that the leader of the free world might actually be on their side. And then Trump leaves the meeting. Right in the middle of this international gathering, Trump just walks out. And people are asking, what was he thinking? Was this intentional? Was he trying to send a message? Or is this just chaos? Because honestly, it's hard to tell the difference. But the optics are terrible. The optics look like Trump couldn't face the criticism, like he couldn't handle being confronted about what he just did, like he had to get out of there because people were questioning his loyalty to America's allies. Like he didn't want to defend the strategy because he knows what it looks like. Now let me break down what's actually in this national security strategy, because this is where it gets really dark. Trump's strategy says that Europe is facing civilizational erasure. That's the language he uses. And instead of talking about defending Europe, instead of talking about strengthening NATO, instead of talking about supporting democracy and freedom in Europe, Trump's strategy is basically saying that America needs to focus on strategic stability with Russia. Strategic stability with Russia. That's the phrase that keeps coming up. That's what Trump wants. That's his goal. And you know what that means? That means Trump is willing to back down. That means Trump is willing to let Russia do what it wants, as long as Russia doesn't directly threaten the United States. That means Trump is willing to sacrifice Europe's interests for the sake of not rocking the boat with Putin. Think about Ukraine for a second. Ukraine is fighting for its existence right now. Ukraine is trying to defend itself against Russian invasion. Ukraine is fighting for its sovereignty and its independence as a nation. And what's Trump saying? Trump's strategy says that his core interest is ending the conflict. Ending it, not winning it. Not helping Ukraine win its freedom back. Not standing by Ukraine, just ending it. And we all know what that means. That means forcing Ukraine to give up territory. That means forcing Ukraine to accept a bad peace deal. That means handing Russia a win. That means Ukraine loses, Russia wins, and Putin knows that. Putin understands that. That's why he's publicly praising Trump's strategy. That's why he's celebrating. Because Trump is essentially saying, I'm willing to let you have Ukraine. I'm willing to let you keep what you've conquered. The analysis from Brookings Institution is really clear about what's going on here. Brookings says Putin will celebrate the hints at reduced U.S. defense commitments to Europe. They say Putin will love the parts where Trump basically says America isn't going to be Europe's bodyguard anymore. America isn't going to spend the resources to keep NATO strong. America isn't going to be the guarantor of European security. And Putin will absolutely celebrate the parts where Trump's strategy talks about not supporting far-right parties that oppose Russian aggression. Wait, what? Trump's strategy is against far-right parties that oppose Russian aggression. That's a weird way to describe the people who are trying to defend themselves against Putin. That's a weird way to describe the people fighting for democracy and independence. These are normal people in Eastern Europe and the Baltic states who don't want to fall under Russian control. And Trump's strategy is basically saying America shouldn't support them. And here's the thing that really gets me. Russia described Trump's document as largely consistent with its vision. Largely consistent with its vision. That's a rare public endorsement from the Kremlin. The Russian government doesn't usually come out and publicly praise American policy documents, but when they do, it means something big. It means they're happy with what they're seeing. It means they think they got what they wanted. It means they think Trump is on their side. It means they think America is about to shift its entire foreign policy in a direction that benefits Russia and hurts America's allies. So now you've got this situation where Trump releases a national security strategy that Putin likes, and then Trump walks out of a major international meeting while the fallout is happening, and people are trying to figure out what's going on. Is Trump deliberately shifting America's foreign policy toward Russia? Is he trying to pivot away from Europe and NATO? Or is this just chaos? Is this just Trump being impulsive? Because honestly, both possibilities are terrifying. Both possibilities are bad for America. Both possibilities show a fundamental problem with Trump's leadership. Either way, we're looking at a situation where America's enemies are celebrating and America's allies are panicking, and Trump is walking out of meetings like he doesn't want to deal with it. Alright, so let's get into what Trump's national security strategy actually says, because you need to understand the full scope of how bad this is. This isn't just about a few vague statements or some weird foreign policy preference. This is about a fundamental shift in how Trump wants America to deal with the world, and it's all pointing toward one direction, toward Russia, toward abandoning Europe, toward turning America inward and letting authoritarians fill the void. Trump's strategy warns about Europe facing civilizational erasure. That's the language. That's what Trump is saying. Now you might think that means Trump is worried about Europe and wants to protect it, but that's not how the strategy reads. The strategy says that because Europe is facing civilizational erasure, America shouldn't be responsible for defending it. It's basically saying Europe is on its own. Europe needs to figure out its own problems. America has its own interests to protect. And America's interests don't include spending money on NATO. They don't include defending countries that are being invaded by Russia. That's the message. And then the strategy pivots to talking about US-Russia strategic stability. Strategic stability, that's the key phrase. That's what Trump wants with Russia. Not victory, not strength. Not defending democracy, just stability, just the absence of conflict. Stability with the country that's invading Ukraine. Stability with the country that's threatening European democracies. Stability with Putin. That's what Trump's national security strategy is about. That's his priority. Now, Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesperson, he came out and said that Trump's strategy resonates with Russia's perspective. And specifically, he praised the parts about ending NATO enlargement. Ending NATO enlargement. Think about what that means. NATO isn't expanding right now, but Finland and Sweden just joined NATO because they wanted protection from Russia. They wanted to join the alliance because Russia is a threat. They saw what Russia did to Ukraine, and they said, we need to be part of NATO. We need protection. And Trump's strategy is saying, no more of that. No more countries joining NATO. This plays directly into Russia's hands. This is exactly what Putin wants. This is exactly what Putin has been saying for years. He's been saying, we don't want NATO to expand. We don't want more countries joining NATO. And Trump is saying, okay, I hear you. I'll make sure that doesn't happen. And then there's the Ukraine part, and this is the really important part. Trump's strategy says that his core interest is ending the Ukraine conflict. Ending it. Not resolving it fairly, not supporting Ukraine's right to exist as an independent nation, just ending it. And what does ending it mean? It means forcing Ukraine to negotiate a ceasefire. It means forcing Ukraine to give up territory that Russia has conquered. It means Ukraine loses, Russia wins. It means giving Putin a win, because that's the only way this ends. If Trump forces Ukraine to negotiate, Ukraine loses territory, Russia wins. Putin gets what he wanted all along. Putin gets to keep the land he's taken, and then Putin can move on to the next target. That's what Trump's strategy is saying. Brookings Institution has analyzed this really carefully, and they're saying that Putin will celebrate the reduced U.S. defense commitments to Europe. They're saying that Putin will love the fact that Trump is essentially telling European countries that America isn't going to be their protector anymore, that America isn't going to spend trillions of dollars keeping NATO strong, that America is pivoting away from Europe, that America is done being the guarantor of European security. And that's great news for Russia. That's exactly what Russia wants. Because if America isn't there to defend Europe, then Russia can do whatever it wants. Russia can intimidate countries. Russia can invade countries. Russia can expand its sphere of influence. Without America backing NATO, Europe is vulnerable, and Trump's strategy is basically saying, that's not our problem anymore. And then there's this part about far-right parties opposing Russian aggression. What does that even mean? Who are the far-right parties opposing Russian aggression? They're the parties in Eastern Europe and the Baltic states that want to defend themselves against Russia. They're the parties that don't want to fall under Russian control. They're the parties that want to stay democratic and independent. They're fighting for their nation's survival. And Trump's strategy is basically saying that America shouldn't support support them. America shouldn't support the people fighting for freedom and independence, but these aren't fringe far-right parties. These aren't extremists. These are mainstream parties in countries that have experienced Russian domination. These are parties that speak for millions of people who don't want to be under Russian control. And Trump's strategy is saying, forget about them, don't support them. So what we're looking at here is a fundamental realignment of American foreign policy away from Europe, away from defending democracy, away from standing up to Russia, and toward what? Toward isolationism, toward America first, toward the idea that America should only care about its own immediate interests, and Russia happens to be one of the few countries that benefits from that kind of thinking. Russia benefits massively from American isolationism. Russia benefits when America steps back. Russia benefits when America stops defending its allies. That's why Putin is celebrating. That's why the Kremlin is publicly praising Trump's strategy. Here's the timeline. Trump releases the strategy on December 7th. This is a major policy document. This is the official national security strategy of the United States. Within hours, Peskov comes out and publicly praises it. Within hours, that's not a coincidence. That's not random timing. That's coordination. That's Putin's team saying, we approve of this, we like this is good for Russia. And then Trump walks out of an international meeting. And why would Trump walk out? Was he being confronted about the strategy? Was someone challenging him on why his national security strategy aligns so closely with what Russia wants? Was he being asked tough questions about his loyalty to NATO? Because if he was, then walking out makes sense. Walking out is what you do when you don't want to defend yourself, when you don't want to answer the tough questions. Or maybe Trump is being impulsive, maybe he got frustrated, maybe he couldn't handle the criticism, and if that's the case, then we have a bigger problem. Because this is the national security strategy. This is the document that's supposed to guide America's foreign policy for 4 years. This is supposed to be the result of careful analysis and strategic thinking and consultation with military leaders and intelligence experts, and instead Trump releases something that Putin loves, and then he walks out of a meeting like he can't handle the criticism. That's not how a president should be acting. And think about what's happening in Ukraine right now. Ukraine is fighting for its existence. Ukraine is fighting against Russian invasion. Ukraine is bleeding. Ukrainians are dying. And Trump's strategy is saying, we want to end this conflict. We want peace. But peace on what terms? Peace where Russia keeps the territory it's conquered? That's not peace. That's surrender. That's handing Russia a win. And Trump's strategy is essentially saying, that's what we want. We want Russia to win. We're willing to sacrifice Ukraine for strategic stability with Russia. That's what Trump's strategy is saying. Okay, let's break down what this all means. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about a national security strategy. This is about America's role in the world. This is about whether America is going to continue to be the leader of the free world, or whether America is going to pivot toward isolation and let authoritarians like Putin fill the void. Point 1. Trump just handed Putin a massive propaganda win. Think about this from Putin's perspective. For years, Putin has been the bad guy. Putin has been the one invading countries. Putin has been the one destabilizing Europe. Putin has been the one threatening democracies, and the United States has been standing against Putin. The United States has been leading the resistance against Russian aggression. The United States has been saying, democracy matters, freedom matters, sovereignty matters, and we're not going to let you take over Europe. We're not going to let you conquer your neighbors. And now Trump comes along and releases a national security strategy that Putin loves, that Putin publicly praises, that Putin celebrates. From Putin's perspective, this is incredible. This is a huge win. This is proof that he doesn't have to worry about America standing in his way anymore. This is proof that Trump is willing to let Russia do what it wants, and Putin can use this. Putin can use Trump's national security strategy as propaganda. Putin can tell his people, look, even America's president is admitting that we're right. Even Trump's strategy acknowledges that Europe is done. Even Trump is willing to deal with us on our terms. Even the leader of the United States is willing to recognize that Russia is a great power that deserves respect and accommodation. That's a massive propaganda win for Putin. That's the kind of thing that changes how people think about the world. That's the kind of thing that makes America look weak. That makes America look like it's no longer willing to be the leader of the free world. And Putin is celebrating that publicly because he knows what it means. He knows what this signals to the world. He knows that other countries are going to be watching this. He knows that other countries are going to be thinking, if America isn't going to protect Europe, maybe we need to make a deal with Russia. Maybe we need to accommodate Russia. That's what this does. Point 2. Trump is abandoning America's allies. For decades, America has been the anchor of the international order. America has been the country that other democracies can count on. America has been the country that says, if you're being invaded, we've got your back. If you're threatened by authoritarians, we're on your side. If you want to be free, if you want to be democratic, if you want to be independent, we support you. We're with you. That's been America's role. That's been what makes America great. That's been what separates us from countries like Russia. That's been what makes America the leader of the free world. And now Trump is saying, we're done with that. We're stepping back. We're pivoting away from Europe. We're not going to be Europe's bodyguard anymore. We're not going to spend our money and our resources defending countries that aren't directly threatening us. We're going to focus on strategic stability with Russia. We're going to let Europe figure out its own problems. And what does that mean for America's allies? It means they can't count on us anymore. It means they need to figure out how to defend themselves against Russia. It means some of them might need to make deals with Russia just to survive. It means the entire European order is about to shift. Because if America isn't there to anchor NATO, then NATO becomes weak. And if NATO falls apart, Europe is vulnerable to Russian domination. This is abandonment. This is Trump abandoning America's allies. This is Trump saying, we don't care about democracy in Europe. We don't care about whether your country remains independent. We only care about strategic stability with Russia. And that's not what America is supposed to be about. Because America isn't great if we abandon our allies. America isn't great if we let authoritarians like Putin dominate the world. America is only great if we stand for freedom and democracy and the rule of law. If we step back from those things, then America stops being great. Then America becomes just another country pursuing its narrow self-interest. And that's a tragedy. Point 3. This could reshape the entire global order. Think about the implications of this. If America steps back from Europe, what happens? Well, Russia probably moves in. Russia probably tries to expand its influence. Russia probably threatens the Baltic states. Russia probably puts pressure on Poland. Russia probably tries to destabilize countries that are currently democracies, but could become Russian satellites if America isn't there to support them. Russia probably starts thinking about its next target. Russia probably starts consolidating its control over Eastern Europe. And once Europe falls under Russian influence, what about Asia? What about Taiwan? What about Japan? What about South Korea? If America has abandoned Europe, why would these countries think America is going to support them? Why would they think America is going to stand up to China? If Trump's strategy is basically, we're only going to focus on our own narrow interests, then countries like Japan and South Korea and Taiwan are in trouble. They're going to have to make deals with China. They're going to have to accept Chinese domination. And the entire global order shifts. Democracy retreats. Authoritarianism advances. This isn't just about foreign policy. This is about reshaping the entire world. This is about the difference between a world led by democracies and a world dominated by authoritarians. This is about whether freedom and democracy are going to survive or whether they're going to be crushed under the boot of authoritarianism. And Trump's national security strategy is pointing us toward the latter, toward a world where Putin and Xi are in charge, where democracy doesn't matter, where freedom doesn't matter, where only power matters, and power belongs to the authoritarians. Point 4. And then Trump walked out. And to make it all worse, Trump walks out of the meeting. What message does that send? It sends the message that Trump can't handle criticism. It sends the message that Trump doesn't want to defend his strategy. It sends the message that Trump knows his strategy is problematic. It sends the message that Trump knows people are going to question him about it, but he doesn't want to deal with it, so he just leaves. He walks out. Maybe Trump was frustrated. Maybe he got tired of the meeting. Maybe he couldn't handle people challenging him. Or maybe Trump knew that if he stayed in that meeting, people were going to ask him tough questions about why his national security strategy aligns so closely with what Russia wants. People were going to ask him why he's abandoning America's allies. People were going to ask him why he's pivoting towards strategic stability with Russia instead of strength against Russia. And Trump didn't want to answer those questions, so he left. Either way, walking out is bad. Walking out makes America look weak. Walking out makes it look like Trump is unstable. Walking out makes it look like our president can't handle a serious international meeting without getting frustrated and leaving. And that's bad for America. That's bad for American credibility. That's bad for America's standing in the world. That's bad for our ability to lead. The bottom line, Trump released a national security strategy that Putin loves. Trump walked out of an international meeting while the world was reacting to his strategy. And now we're left with a fundamental question about America's future. Is Trump deliberately shifting America's foreign policy toward Russia? Is he intentionally weakening America's alliances? Is he intentionally abandoning our allies? Or is this just chaos, just impulsiveness, just a president who doesn't understand the consequences of what he's doing? Either way, the result is the same. America is stepping back from Europe. America is pivoting toward Russia. America's allies are panicking, and Putin is celebrating because Trump just handed him a massive propaganda win. Trump just told the world that America is done being the leader of the free world, and that changes everything. That changes the entire geopolitical order. That changes what the future looks like for democracy and freedom around the world.